warm welcome to our Technology Game Changer series on Sky's the Limit, so exploring the advancement of aerospace technology in India. It's my absolute pleasure and a privilege to be hosting an eminent panel like you.
Previously, it used to be that India was always lagging behind a bit, but I think we have now done a fast catch-up. We are actually pretty much at the same level, if not, even ahead sometimes and so on.
If you look at, what really changed, you look at the Indian aviation, around 2003 to 2007, we had a lot of airlines coming in. If you look at a big tranche of orders from Air India, the first orders, then we had Jet Airways, Yadakan, Kingfisher, Indigo, SpiceJet, Jet. All of them made orders in these 4 years, and there was a lot of enthusiasm that there is going to be a big growth in the aerospace sector as well, as which will follow the aviation. And that's something which we are seeing now, like what we saw in 2005, around that period. Again, in around 2005, two industry sectors jumped into aerospace, in my opinion. One is IT sector, the other one, automotive sector.
As a consultant, when I look at any sector, I look at demand, ecosystem, and supply. When I look at aerospace, there is a huge demand, both from the military and the civil aviation today. Obviously, we are a fast-growing aviation market. We do a lot of work in MRO also. MRO business is also going in a big way. The ecosystem is promoting right now, but somehow the incentivization on fiscal and non-fiscal is lacking. The supply is woefully inadequate in aerospace. We are relying on one behemoth in India and HAL. So I'm not really talking about foreign OEMs selling base. Most of them are not really got into the entire value chain of aerospace as we see. So their over-reliance on one DPSU, and I'm being very frank here, because we do a lot of work with HAL, etc. So whilst there is demand, the ecosystem is, I would say, 60-70% there. The supply says woefully inadequate.
So the biggest gain of any industry will be when you become the OEM or Tier 1. In that, you will be able to guide and give directions to the design developments suiting your requirement. Otherwise, if you are dependent on anything else, you will be denied that opportunity.
I think in 2018 or 2019, I was actually at the AWA Aviation Forum, and the CEO of Boeing was actually having a fireside chat, and he said, we are a 103-year-old company, and unfortunately for us, we have to think like a 100-year-old company as well as a 3-year-old company. That is the name of the game in aerospace today, right? So we need to actually look at what are the 3-year-olds doing as much as the 100-year-olds are doing.
When it comes to India's position in the aerospace and the advanced air mobility market, where do we stand right now? My answer is fairly straightforward. Is that if some of the stats that came out about the CAGR of the aerospace sector growing by 26.6 earlier in the day, I can comfortably tell you that as on today, the drone sector is punching above its weight and hitting about 30 to 33%. Now, there were a couple of interesting stats that came out from the FAA that by 2040 we will have around 400,000 unmanned vehicles in the sky, and there will be around, by the AIA, there will be about 280,000 jobs specifically in the US by 2035. Now, if India is going to be participative of this global phenomenon or this global emerging trend in unmanned systems, is that a good target or a bad target? I would say we definitely have to move fast.
And coming down to capital. Now, I was reading in newspaper that yesterday our present defense secretary said that 2% of the GDP is good enough for our military forces. I'm surprised. So we all people who are in this forum, and we should put our heads together and suggest to the government that, okay, if you cut down that money, there will be no spend on R&D. There will be no spend on R&D. There will be no spend on innovation. There will be no spend on talent pool acquisition.
The third shift which is happening is shifting towards localization and industrial development. Every country is moving towards, we call it Atmanirbharta, but what we are seeing is there is a general shift towards each country creating its own capabilities. And that's something which I've seen all aerospace and defense majors, and some of them in this call, understand. And we are helping them in, typically, how do you focus on localizing. Whether you talk of Middle East, India obviously leading the pack, or Southeast Asia, gone are the days then where they would buy an equipment outright from abroad in English specific. So localization is the mantra, and any major aerospace company, unless it adapts to that, the business would have bottlenecks and challenges.
I think in the aerospace and defense sector, it is very important that we should have complete ownership of IP. And I believe it's the youngsters who will be able to do that way better than the large legacy organizations because of the way the agility is required in terms of innovation. And I believe also that the startups can really solve some of the tough problems, not only with respect to the drone ecosystem, but also for the mainstream aerospace and defense.
Another driver for the aerospace industry currently for all the technologies, what we are working on is on the digital, right? We talked about the digital. There are a lot of value creation by digital technologies in the area of service and production. We were talking about having those the micro robots getting into an engine where you can't really access the engine parts to see the corrosion or the deterioration. So such things are, I think it's possible right now.
So all these things are getting manufactured in India. Mind it, this is a single source again. So anything stops here, stops the main production everywhere in the world. So if we are manufacturing it here, how is that beneficial to us? I'll be very open that we have a cost margin. We have a cost margin manufacturing it here. We have a benefit manufacturing it here. And it's for everybody else, all the foreign OEMs. So Atmanirbhar has to be thought again. I think it is more of opening our doors to exports, knocking the doors of foreign, land and see how we can supply to them. And also making it more, economical. That's what I believe is more Atmanirbharta, where you built up the talent, built up the skills, and can produce something which the world comes and asks it from you.
Even though there are several initiatives, what I would say in terms of solution is that we need a national aerospace policy clearly identifying the gaps. And then when we talk to whether it is Airbus or Boeing or whether internally to the universities or whatever, then we know what the critical gaps are, the technology areas, and we need to drive the development accordingly.
I think what we lack is the system concept, or basically once you take the concept, then the aircraft requirements, which maps onto system requirements, then subsystems requirement, then item, and then we start working on different verticals. Verticals could be the software development, the electronic hardware development, mechanical and hydraulic systems, design of test benches and all, then designing how will you verify and validate the concept and do the final acceptance, meeting the aircraft requirements. So this is a very structured way of working.
Question that we get posed every day is that why do I need to use a drone to fly medicine to the last mile when you have a guy going on a motorbike or somebody going on foot? It's going to be very cheap. Now that is a very simplistic solution. Argument, but it is something that we have to answer on a daily basis. If you look at the value that drones add on an incremental basis over a certain period of time, there is certainly a benefit. Now, if these benefits are to be realized, it has to be on an economic level. Now, money is what, of course, makes the world go round, and we need to definitely demonstrate that drones are a viable option from an economic standpoint. But there is a certain catalytic cost that is involved. Now, if you're going to, use drones in a humanitarian cycle, for us to prove that, over a period of 2 years, the cost, the price tag of our drone services that were used in delivery of medicines was X, vis-a-vis the amount that you spend in terms of buying a car, buying a motorbike, salaries of people there, the out-of-pocket expenses of patients who come to your health centers, living in these undulating areas, what is that? So your cost of ownership of a drone is definitely, more promising. And that said, it is also a futuristic solution. So if you look at a place like, Arunachal Pradesh, for example, the only way out is drones. And this is a phenomenon across the northeastern parts of India. There is no, two ways about it. Yes, there is a certain time window where, where you have landslides and natural phenomena that completely, inhibit travel. And if you have to deliver medicines and emergency supplies, this is the way forward. And these are also training wheels for advanced air mobility, for the transport of people, to actually ensure that rural populations get the same level of lifestyle, or for that matter, even healthcare supplies amongst others, as what urban, on par with the urban grade infrastructure.
In Israel and in Canada, in Saudi, in South Korea, has done a great thing. We should compare them. We should compare the multipliers and then come back. Quick question, quick answer to the designing part. F-35, the most advanced fighter jet in the world, most of the designing part are done in India. It was a surprise to me also.
As far as civil aviation is concerned, I can tell you the speed at which the things are changing. The speed at which the Aircraft Act was amended, the speed at which the AIB rules were formulated, the speed at which the drones 2.0, I remember the last date was probably 30th September or whatever. It came about and we worked overnight. I was a part of that team. Amber was a part because Amber was doing the negotiations and whatever was taking up from the PMO with Mandhar and party. But let me tell you one thing, that the regulatory system is not to be blamed. Now, whatever the industry people are wanting, whether it is commerce, whether it is even if it is the foreign.
What this drone sector is suffering from right now is the huge lack of talent pool. That is the biggest problem at this point of time for India to take lead in this segment. I don't think there is any other problem or challenge which will divide India from taking a lead in this particular sector. We have the right kind of policy, we have the right kind of use cases which are happening, and also we have the right kind of market which is emerging. In India right now, it is expected that the drone market will become about an $11 billion market by 2028. It's not a small market. The global market is expected to become $80 billion market. So what is indeed needed is that a lot of folks who are seasoned in the aerospace, mainstream aerospace and defense industry should start looking at drone as an alternative, let's say medium in the industry or category in the industry, which is more emerging, which is giving higher growth and will add a lot of strategic value to both the defense and civilian applications.
Looking at what is the next generation composites and how do we really produce in a high mass scale, right? And so we are actively looking at thermoplastics as one of the sustainable composites we are looking at seriously. And again, it's not new to the industry. It's there for over the decade, but we are looking at making the large structures using thermoplastics as an area we are looking at. The other one is an additive, right? And that additive is there over the time, but the getting additive into the mainstream is still, it's taking long time. So we are looking at how do we accelerate this. One of the challenges is that we can make any parts, but can we really understand the characterization of the part and can we qualify and certify the additively made parts is a major challenge.
We'll come back to you with more such sessions in the future. There's also a LinkedIn group known as Technology Game Changers, where you have technology leaders from other technology areas as well. So it'll be great for you to kind of join there and contribute and also learn from the rest of the industry leaders. It was indeed wonderful having all of you.